Technical difficulties all around this evening. Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass Sockcast, which is, of course, your home for all things soccer right here in the beautiful state of Kentucky. I'm Jimmy. I'm holding a mic this time. It sounds different, and I hope it sounds good to your ears. That's John, who's always reliable. John, how are you doing today?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How did you feel about the draft we did last week, John?
I think it went good and
Yeah.
stuff. I don't necessarily like my surprise pick of Chattanooga FC anymore with them moving to the MLS, which is just a knife in the independent soccer
Yup. Well,
movement, which I don't even get why they're doing it, but it
because
also
they're
makes
not even going
sense.
to the MLS. They're going to MLS next, right?
Yeah, that sounds like. Does Nashville have a MLS next team?
They do in Huntsville. Yeah. Let that one wash
Who
over you.
who would they be for? St. Louis?
I don't know.
I saw that. I didn't do too much in depth, and I haven't looked at MLS Next. In all honesty, ever. In my opinion, I
Same,
thought it was
honestly.
just like a U23 thing for
I thought it
like.
was just like their second teams, right? Like,
Yeah, I
Inter
thought it was
Miami
just B
2 or whoever.
squads. Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
it was B or two or however they labeled them squads. And then like that, you said and then Chattanooga's joining. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. I can see if the MLS is going the route of like baseball and hockey, trying
Mm-hmm.
to create a minor league system with, oh, well, for Chattanooga, it makes sense if they were with Nashville.
Yes. It would make a
But
lot more sense.
oh, Chattanooga is the like AAA for Nashville. If you want to see Nashville's like future stars, go and no, just stop.
Yep.
This is why we need Pro Rel.
Yes.
Get
Well, and I think that could make a really great conversation for another episode where we kind of break it down, right? Like, what is MLS Next? What is MLS Next Pro? That would be something that we could really break down and dive into because I don't know. Like, I don't really know the difference. I don't know where a pro potential for a player is if they're in MLS Next, if they're at Chattanooga. Does that mean that's as high as they can go, or do they have a chance to easily get promoted to St. Louis or Memphis? You know, are they going crossing over to the USL or what? You know,
yeah.
but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks because I do think that would be a great conversation to have. But for this week, John, we're going to start by going to the bottom line. And John, I want to mix up our schedule here, and I want to go straight into talking about Lexington as they play tonight at the Omaha Union. This
Union
is
Omaha.
yeah, thank you. Omaha, what Union Omaha. I even have it written correctly. I just brain thrown off if you can't tell. Big road game. Lexington looking for their first road win of the season. Omaha looking for revenge after getting crushed 3-0 in the last match. What, 2 weeks ago, John?
Yeah. This is really weird, and I can comment in general on league scheduling because this is really weird. There's been literally one game between each. Uh, Omaha is, if you read my write up, Omaha played Tormenta at home, and we played the Kickers. And that's
Yep.
literally been the only game difference between two before this rematch, which doesn't make sense to me while we're playing. And this is the last game we play against Omaha. And we're playing within not even 21 days.
Yeah, less
I even
than. That was like
less than
14, 15?
14,
Yeah.
even technically. It just doesn't make sense because, like, at the same time, we've played all three of ours against Tormenta already. Just the schedule is weird. I don't know if it's
And
an optimized traveling schedule
well, and then
or
who
what.
determines like so you mentioned we played Tormenta 3 times, right? 2 at home, 1 on the road, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so who determines that? Like, is next year is it going to be 2 at home, 1 at Tormenta? How does that work?
That's what my guess is. I also think with some of this scheduling, like we only play the West teams 2 times each. So
Yeah,
I
strange.
get I'm getting a vibe that they're trying to go the way of easier travel for in general, but in the way of East versus West because there's only 12 teams. So if you did a play one time home and away, that's only 22 matches.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
I get
it's got
it.
to be something like that, right?
Yeah, but it's we need the win. We desperately need the
Yes.
win.
Lexington
7
needs a win to continue to get into the playoff push.
counting ca- counting this match, there 7 of the 13 remaining matches are on the road. So
Oof.
they need a win. They're against winnable beatable opponents. Like these are in my opinion from what I've read off the top of my head, these are like our two toughest. This one cuz Omaha is hard to beat at home
Right.
and then we're going to NoCo on
Yeah.
Saturday.
We'll get to that one in a second. But when we're looking at this matchup with Omaha, um, I think you kind of have to start with Omaha attack, right? Like, yes, it was completely not there in the first meetup between Lexington and the Union of Omaha. Uh, but they are a dangerous offensively team, especially at home in that pseudo baseball park that they play in, or I think they still play there.
Yeah, they still play
Um,
there, and I'm as actively as I'm watching this game. They play the weird way. They play like I think it's how Louisville played. They're playing like from the back, like home plate. Sorry, home plate. I was thinking catcher, like towards an outfield post. They don't play like
Not how
and like
NYCFC in the like in the outfield. They play
no
from home plate outward.
outwards towards one of the outfield things. Not like for those who may not know soccer, think the Oakland Coliseum with the Raiders and A's,
But
which very ugly type thing.
dump.
I'm completely against dual purpose stadiums in general.
Yes.
You can make some arguments for soccer and American football dual purpose because fields are the same. If you swap the fields, I agree there shouldn't be gridiron lines, but
Agreed.
if you're able to swap the fields, perfectly fine. But like baseball and any other sport that plays in a rectangle does not
Yeah.
work.
Nope. Well, and if you look at like American history, right? Like it was cheaper and it was a better fit to have those multi-purpose stadiums. And when you're looking now in a modern context at some of these smaller clubs, which Union is a smaller club still,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the finances to build their own stadium, so they have to go in and pay the fees to flip the fields from baseball to soccer, and those prices can be astronomical. I've looked at a couple of different things. Some teams will pay 10 to 15 grand a game to flip, but then others are paying like 40 to $50,000 a game to flip the field.
Yeah,
um,
and this is in season. That I don't think people
right.
realize that. So like with the football and baseball, they had small, very small amount of overlap. This, for at least in the American soccer schedule, is the entire season
Yeah.
for both
And
teams,
those
basically.
American football to baseball conversions, especially in like the 70s and 80s, even in the 90s, was they left the dirt. Like they just drew the football lines over the dirt and that's what you played on. They didn't care if you tripped on, that difference between the infield dirt and the outfield as you were running a passing route or whatever. But, now in a modern context, you can't do that. You can't do that for baseball and soccer. Like, you'd really get messed up.
You get messed up. You can clearly tell by watching the game right now that where the infield is, the sod is way different color. Yeah, but in the thing, we need to win. Omaha's hard to beat at home, so I called for a 1-1 draw. But the lineups are interesting. with
Yeah, talk to me about the lineup here for Lexington tonight. Oh my
so
god, I just turned it on. This is such a weird format. Holy crap.
yeah, and if you look, so Lexington's uh, attacking towards the home run
Yeah,
side, if you want
towards
to think of
the
it.
outfield. You were right.
If they
Yes.
go across towards
Uh-huh.
Knight, literally like right behind that goal is the dugout.
It's
Like
just
you'll
insane.
see, it's weird. Anyways,
But yes, I agree with our commenter. This hurts my eyes to watch.
yeah, the starting lineup for Lex is practically the same besides two changes. And the two changes were two changes we saw in the Richmond game, but reversed. So we
Mhm.
have uh, Charlie and Nico Brown are out for Soso and Balogun, which we saw in the last game.
Which
I don't
worked
know.
pretty well.
Oh, it works really well. I like this. I do. Soso and Charlie are very much similar. Soso actually is traditionally a forward. He is a striker. We use him in the midfield, but we use him as a attacking midfielder, which is what Charlie is. Charlie is traditionally a striker. He got moved into midfield in college. Um, so this works. And then we have Balogun. I said this in the game when we swapped Brown for Balogun against the home game to some fans. The Diouf, Balogun, Brown like triangle. You're not going to play three strikers, but it's a good problem to
Good
have
clearance away.
too many strikers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and since this match has already kicked off, we don't want to dive too much in, but just a couple of final notes here, from things that I want to look forward to in this match is how is Lexington's attack going to look with that new kind of 3-5-2 format that they've been playing with? Can Tate Robertson continue to play a big important role on the attacking end? But for Omaha, also, they've got some players uh, that are really pushing on points and are really pushing for assists and goals. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I think that Omaha is just in such a rut right now. I don't know how they're going to find their way out of it. I mean, of course, playing at home, big help. And I think that this match honestly just means more to Lexington at this point. And I'm going to go Lexington 2, Union Omaha 1.
I in my heart I want them to win, but just with the road stuff, we'll have to see, honestly. But with our road thing is why I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Until we
Absolutely.
like
I think it
win on the
ends
road.
today. Lexington gets it done tonight. Mark it down. Put it in the books. I look forward to that coming back and biting me in about an hour.
Yeah. Uh
But that's not it for Lexington this week, John. As you mentioned earlier, they play on Saturday on the road at Northern Colorado. And for those who don't know, Northern Colorado is by far the best team in League One right now. Uh, they have only lost one game all season. Or no, heading into last week, I apologize. They had only lost one game. Now they've lost two in a row with a goal differential of 6-1. So this team that has been riding high all year is suddenly coming back down to earth.
riding
Um,
high and being a team that has, let me pull it up. Their offense has been insane this year.
oh
Uh
yes,
their offense has been insane, but we arguably should have beat them. Um, come last time they met, which was when the youth should have had a hat trick.
yeah.
He wasn't
So
offside
32
though,
goals for 19 allowed, goal differential of plus 13.
which is five more than North Carolina. They're
Yeah,
in second place in terms of goal differential. Um, yeah, they have the same positive goal differential as Fuego has negative.
Which just tells you how bad Fuego is and how good Northern Colorado is. And you also have to think how bad they just beat Lexington a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, it's just maddening.
Yeah, it's
Anyways,
wild. This
John,
league
how do
is
you
wild.
think it is? How do you think this matchup with how does Lexington match up with Northern Colorado?
I think we match up well, and that's very much seen from the tie. Granted, that
Mm-hmm.
tie is now it's going to be almost 10 weeks ago.
It was June 3rd.
Yeah. So probably about 10 weeks, I think that is in
Yeah.
total. 9-ish. So it's going to be interesting, especially with this new formation. I don't see them changing it at all. If they do, it's reverting back to 4-4-2, but I doubt they'll do that.
Yeah, I would be surprised.
I honestly think it's going to depend on how this game goes, will be how Lexington plays in that game.
Mm.
If they get 3 points out of this game, I could see them riding high. But even if they lose this game in how Omaha has won their last 2 games, which is an extra time winner, I could also see them just pulling a no-co and just like trying to stomp on your opponent's throat.
Yeah, and it is kind of a management scenario for Coach Stockley and the rest of the coaching staff, right? Like, how do you manage knowing that you've got back-to-back road games way far away from home? Like, this isn't like at Knoxville where they can go down and come back, or even at Richmond where they can go and come back. This is 2 very far road games. If I had to guess, on a bus to Omaha,
They
and
flew.
then they flew. Okay,
Yeah, they
good.
flew.
Oh man, I thought they had taken a bus. I was like, oh,
No,
good.
no, no,
That's
no.
a long trip.
Our owner has enough money to have his own private jet. I feel he has enough
Let's
money to fly
go.
our players and coach at least.
Let's go.
And from what I've seen, that's most of the league. They took a charter bus down to like Knoxville and
Yeah,
Chattanooga, but I think the league as a whole, maybe it could be a USL thing in general, of a certain travel distance has to be flown,
yeah,
and they're in coach. Like I've seen
right.
the posts on you can watch the Instagram stories. They're flying coach. They're not flying chartered or any of that sort of thing. So, which you can, if you know the time rules for USL, then it's very easy to plan out those flights ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's not like the schedule didn't come out for them last week, and they were like, "Oh, bet I gotta figure this out real quick." Like you said, they've had months to plan for it, so they should be well prepared. I don't know how well Lexington will match up against Northern Colorado in the altitude. Second game back to back on the road. I will. I'm thinking that one's going to go Northern Colorado 2, Lexington 1. I don't think we have the horses to get that one done.
I, you'll for those who want my prediction, you'll see it in my write up. I need how this game determines is going to determine how I feel going into. I do not like calling games ahead of while another one's actively going on.
I'll pick a whole season before the first kick. Let's go. That's next year. That's what I should do. I should literally go through, say Lexington's going to go like 18, 5, and 7 or something like that. I don't know how many games that is even.
18 fans.
Way too many.
No, actually 23. You're too short.
Oh, well, make it, yeah, whatever. But John, so make sure that if you all want to continue to follow along with Lexington Sporting Club, John has been doing some great write-ups for them, previewing, recapping, talking about the storylines and stuff like that going on in Lexington. Make sure you stick to our website, bgsoccercast.show, for all of our updates and all of our great articles. But John, let's now head across the state and go to Lou City, baby. They head on the road down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. to take on FC Tulsa, who had a big blom in the Open Cup, if you remember, where they lost to Tulsa Athletic, which is from the NPSL or NA. No, they're not from NISA. Yeah, I think they're from
No,
the
they're not.
NPSL.
I think it's MPSL, which is
So
weird in general.
yeah,
From my research, I've tried to done some MPSL and some UPSL teams qualify for the Open Cup. Some don't, which
yeah.
I don't get. I feel like if you're in a league, if you're in a league and some of those teams in that league qualify, the whole league should qualify.
Oh gosh,
Now
that would be insane.
there's other rules in play in terms of like new team. I don't know.
Well, we know that starting next year, the spring UPSL champion will get an automatic bid into the league. Now, the NPSL, I have not looked at their automatic qualifier requirements. There are some great Twitter accounts that do follow that kind of stuff. There's like Lower League Pyramid, I think, is a great Twitter account that we follow on our account that kind of tracks all of that stuff. So,
Literally,
you know,
Pyramid Protagonist Soccer tries their best to cover, but they're
yeah,
covering it. They cover W League, they cover all the USL, they cover NISA. They try their best, but there's so much,
so much.
so much. The
But
Premier Leagues.
FC Tulsa has been on a pretty good stretch, winning 4 of the last 5. However, that loss was in their last match where they just got blown out 3-0 to Tampa. Tulsa has been on the move up the charts in the playoff rankings. They're up to 7th, while as it's been well documented on this podcast and in our blog posts and so forth, Lou City is hopefully coming off a rough stretch where they only won 2 games out of 5 in league play. But they did get that 2-0. Lou City did get that 2-0 win over Indy 11 last weekend. So I think that this is a good opportunity to continue that streak against a still a playoff opponent, but somebody who's a little bit lower in the table.
Yeah, they can definitely get it. It's going to be a tough matchup because Tulsa is good at home. They're 5-3-3, so that's they out of 11 matches, they've only dropped 3 with no points.
Yeah.
They have a positive goal differential at home. They're on a 4-match unbeaten streak at home. So, but it looks to be a low scoring affair.
Indeed.
Tulsa Tulsa averages 1.2 goals per match, where Lou City only averages exactly 1. But Lou City has looked a little better. I can see this formation working well against Tulsa.
Absolutely.
They need, I would say, a minimum a draw to keep some momentum. If they drop this again, anything they build up for the Indy match is just gone.
Yeah.
Momentum wise,
That would be
it's
a killer.
just dropped.
Well, and you mentioned that formation, John. Coach Cruz this past week talked about how happy he was with the team's performance in the game last week with the formation changes, as well as in practice this past week. So I think this is here to stay. But my biggest question is, how is Lou City going to contain Philip Goodrum, who is a Nashville native, so some of the audience may be familiar with him, from Tulsa, as he has been on fire this season. 7 goals in 20 appearances. And this guy, I saw some of his strikes. Like, they're not just like little tap ins. They're from 20, 30 yards out. Like, he's had some good highlights. So how can Lou City's defense respond to Phillip and the rest of the attack for Tulsa will make a big difference in how this game goes. And not
We'll see if that
go for it.
We'll see if that trade or whatever
Yeah.
proper terminology works out for Adams, because I feel like Adams is the guy.
Yeah.
Like this is
the game. This is why we got you.
Prove we got you for a good reason. If I'm a coach or sporting director, I'm not trading for a guy I don't think could help us.
Right.
but this is the sense prove it to the fans
Yep.
that we gave up one of our better attacking options for you. And he did well against Indy.
He did.
So we'll see how Adams does against Tulsa, who have a little better of an attack than Indy.
Well, and Tulsa has, I mean, not to go too in depth on, Tulsa, FC Tulsa talk over here, but they made an acquired fullback Patrick Segrest from Colorado Springs Switchbacks this week to help kind of bolster their back line. So if you're not familiar, Patrick is an experienced USL champion fullback, having made over 80 appearances in the league in the past 3 seasons, so very well experienced. He was one of the bigger contributors to the Colorado Springs attacking effort by having 3 assists in 16 matches so far while he was playing for them. Patrick previously had played with several current members of Tulsa FC last season with Memphis. So he's coming in. He already knows a lot of the players. So when you add a player that knows a lot of the team, is familiar with the surroundings and stuff like that, because he's been in this league for a couple of years now, and you bring on that kind of attack and defensive mindset, it can really change how this Tulsa team has been playing and really push them up the table in the playoff chase.
Don't count out Tulsa just because they're in 7th.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we're in 4th. They're in 7th and they're 4 points behind you, Blue City.
Yeah.
So
a loss here to them
don't have that breathing room.
It goes back to what you just said. If Blue City loses to Tulsa, that good vibes and that good juju that we got from last week is gone, and it's
a
right
flash
back.
in the pan.
Yeah,
flash in the pan against a kind of a gassed Indy side, or an Indy side that could used up all their momentum. Both Tulsa and Lou are going into this game rested. Yep. They're not playing midday or midweek games, so this could be very interesting. Which apparently, I don't know if you've seen this. Did you see how that Loudon United is playing like 11 a.m. kickoff?
Who was that?
Game?
Loudon and Colorado Springs, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why?
Well, so from what I read, somebody had mentioned in that thread that it was because they were trying to do like an educator's day, or like bring your kid to school, or bring your kid to the game kind of a day. That's why they were doing it. Unconfirmed, didn't do the research, but that's what I read from a random commenter on Reddit. It's on Saturday?
I thought it was on a Saturday.
I thought it was on a Wednesday.
If it's like, it might be. If it was like that, okay. Oh, it was played today.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure it was today.
It was against Memphis.
Oh, well.
Yeah, okay. So, but even then, what school is in session? Do Virginia go back to school this early?
I don't know.
Because, like, I'm in Michigan, we don't go to school until the day after Labor Day. But we also don't get out till mid-June. So,
speaking of oofs, we do have a result so far. 24 minutes in, Omaha 1, Lexington 0 off a corner kick that was headed in by the Union. So we will do our best to continue to keep an eye on that. But John, going back to this Tulsa Lou City match, I think this has got a draw written all over it. I'm not there yet to start picking Lou City to win these kind of matches again. But a draw here would go a long way for that. How do you think that one will turn out?
I also called for a draw. It's hard to win in Tulsa, as I've pointed out, but Tulsa's not that great of a team overall in terms of an attack, so we'll see. Lou City still needs to prove their attack is truly back. They had one game does not prove anything.
Nothing. So it doesn't improve anything.
Happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens, which leads us to racing.
Yes, sir. Racing Louisville on the road at KC Current in the last group stage match of the Challenge Cup for both teams. And I think this could be a really interesting match because a couple of things. One, it's on the road, so automatically Racing fans, you've got to have that elevated concern right there. But Racing beat Kansas City 3 times so far this year. They're 3-0 against them in all competitions. They haven't lost. They haven't even
They're
um,
they're on a 4-match unbeaten streak between league and club.
yeah.
Current has not beat Racing since May of 2022.
Yeah. And when you look at our group standings, though, so even with all of that, Racing is 4-0-1. That one being that recent loss to Houston, which does give me pause on how good this team could be. But Kansas City is 3-1-1. Like, they're
With
right.
a tie to the Red Stars.
Yeah,
their last match.
which was insane. And like when I saw that, I was like, oh, they must have tied with Houston or something. No, they literally just drew with one of the worst teams in the league.
And the thing is, they only have lost one player. They only lost Dabinha to the World Cup. Now, with Brazil dropping out, I don't think Dabinha will be like, let me play on Saturday.
Ooh, I mean,
but
the way Brazil got bounced.
You could see Dabinha. You could sing Wang Shang.
Yep.
And Borges also come back for, I believe the other 4 countries made it.
Yeah.
Yes. The other 4 racing countries made it. You could see those 3 come back and play on Saturday. I believe they have no timetable where the league is like you have to sit out or something
there's
along
no
those lines.
10-day cool down period or anything like that.
I don't think we'll see any of them. They might be at the game, but not dressed.
No. Yeah, I would be surprised if they were dressed, and I would be stunned if they were to play. In general, I definitely don't. I'd bet a lot of money that I don't have that they wouldn't start.
I'd be very surprised if they dress.
Yeah, same.
At all. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were at the game.
But this game is really important because the winner of this match will win the group. If I did the math right, and I kind of looked at things on win, loss, and goal differential, depending on the final score, if KC can win this, both teams will advance because this has been by far the hardest group to get points in the Challenge Cup. So the number 1 team and whoever finished second out of this group will automatically make the semifinals of the Cup playoffs. But it makes a big difference on who you play and where you play. So the winner is not most likely, they will host someone else, right?
Yes.
So if you want to play at home and you want to have a more favorable draw, you got to win this if you're racing Louisville. And this is a true test for a young franchise, a younger team. Yes, they've got experience, but they're still young. And I think they're going to rise up, and I think they're going to answer the call. I'm going final score, Racing 2, KC 0.
What was it? I had it as 1-0 Racing. Like I said, and their loss to the Dash. Campbell for the Dash stood on her head. Yep. She was insane. I don't see that. Like, Current would need another great performance. Current would need a great performance out of their goalkeeper to truly stop this Racing attack. They're deadly in general. This attack is insane. So either they need another stop by their goalkeeper, or Racing's can pile it on. I have it at 1-0 just because I see them securing the victory and then kind of parking the bus a little bit.
Very easily could.
Just to not overwork players.
Yeah, very easily could, especially knowing that it's a relatively quick turnaround to, I think, late week playoff games. So,
yeah.
But John, that'll wrap up all of our in-state teams. But of course, we've been having a lot of coverage on the U.S. women's team, and they played a game against Portugal the other day, and wow, Did they play poorly? Wow. 0-0 draw against Portugal, but they still advanced to the knockout phase. But they finished second
Yes,
behind the
they did.
Netherlands.
They finished second. MVP of the game was a goalpost
Yes,
for the U.S.
yes, absolutely.
because we could genuinely be talking about arguably one of the biggest shockers in
Oh
any
my
World Cup
God.
history.
Yes,
You could be,
it
but
would have been.
2 points. 2 points I have. Positive and negative. Positively, it's that every team has looked exposable. You could argue not Sweden, but even
Yeah,
then,
not
they
Sweden.
haven't played their top. They've done a lot of rotation. Almost every player on their squad has played.
Which you would think is a great thing, right?
That's not a great thing.
Exactly.
Even if you're trying to be a dominant country, that's not a good thing. They fully swap besides their 2 center backs, their entire starting 11
Mm-hmm.
in their last group stage match. That's not something you want to do. Yes, there's a thing about fresh legs and that type of thing, but you don't want to do that because that can disrupt chemistry. This is not a league or like the League's Cup, this type of thing. Oh, let's just get our younger players playing time.
No.
You don't do that at the World
This is
Cup.
for the effing World
It
Cup,
doesn't
baby.
matter. It doesn't matter if you have first in the group lockdown or something. Maybe you sub them in late and
Right.
do like as many subs as you can. You don't do a full on starting 11 change.
No.
That's just not something you do. They could have thrown off their keeper's rhythm. There's so much that can happen because of that. Now, and it's also by the gods that we face Sweden again in a World Cup. I haven't gotten into the women's game, but I think we've played Sweden in nearly every single World Cup.
Pretty close.
So, but well, I'm worried about Sweden. We had to get past Sweden.
Yeah.
But I'm more worried about I think it's Japan.
Yes, and that was the point I was going to bring up. So you had mentioned a few moments ago about some of the teams looking a little shaky. Well, you could say that about most of them, but you cannot say that about Japan, England, Sweden, and I think Colombia as well. They will all have.
England has looked shaky
They've got 9 points. How can you say a team that looks shaky with 9 points?
because they barely survived against some teams.
But you're perfect on the
Points don't
scoreboard.
mean anything.
Points
Points
mean
don't mean anything.
everything. That's the whole point of the game.
Not when you reach the knockouts. That's great. You have 9 points.
Well, true.
That doesn't mean nothing. I have the stats to prove that so far. With the men's side at least. Yes, we would play the winner if we beat the winner of Sweden versus USA plays the winner of Japan versus Norway.
Which should
And
be
Norway
Japan.
hasn't looked that good.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with Japan. If pull up the momentum, FotMob does a really good job of this for bigger games. They show momentum.
Mm-hmm.
There are goals scored against Spain where they like the it's like red versus blue, where the red's like down here and it's a blue goal. Their counterattack is insane. So we can see what happens. I am very, very curious to see how this U.S. team reacts to all this bad press they're getting.
Yeah.
They're getting dogged by Carly Lloyd. Now, Carly Lloyd has always been like this.
Yeah.
It needs to be remembered. She's very much like this high. If you want to say it, she's very much like this Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan mentality of like, there's never enough type thing. So some people are like, yes, her comments are valid and warranted and very much true. However, she's always been like this.
Yep.
They could have won 4-0 and she might have said something along those lines.
Well, because she holds the team to such a high standard. And I do as well, because I'm going to be frank with you, John. I thought they looked uninspired and nervous. And that is the first time I have felt nervous about a U.S. women's team in a long time. And I've been watching soccer, especially women's soccer at the World Cup level, since like the 99ers. And it's been a long time since I've seen an unnervy women's side in this country.
But I think it has to be said that this side, one, very injury ridden. Just
Yeah, but
has to
you've
be
got a
stated that
bench that bench could probably start and win for any country in the world.
I don't think so anymore. I do not think so. That bench could start go. You swap our bench for Japan and like they're cruising in Japan. I think there is something to be said about the youth and veterans.
Right.
There is something that Vlatko needs to find a balance to. But we went 15 years, 16 years without winning a World Cup
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah. And you had to get
We
hungry
didn't
again.
make, I believe we didn't make the 2003 or 2007 final.
2003. This is all off the top. I think you're correct on that, and I don't remember 2007.
But in general, like there was a period where they dominated and then they came back down
Right.
and then they dominated again. And we just need to get to that point. Again, it happens. It's happened with Brazil in the men's side. It's happened with Argentina in the men's side. Like
Look at the
Argentina won their
women's
2
side for
World
both of
Cups.
those exact same countries, especially Brazil. They just
Yeah.
lost to, or they drew with Jamaica. I mean, shout out to the reggae ladies, but Brazil shouldn't have lost that game. Marta should not have let that team lose, but they did. Well, they drew, which was basically a loss.
Yeah. We did not this the 2003 and 2007 was Germany's dominance. We got third place, but Germany won both of those. So yeah, there was a period where yes, we still made the semis,
Right.
but there was still a period where we weren't the best. Germany was the best in the world. They won back to back. It's hard. It's hard to win 3. There's a
Yes.
reason it's never happened in the men's game. There's a reason it hasn't happened in the women's game.
Right.
It's hard.
And to Portugal's credit in this match specifically, right? They were the better team that day. They had better control, they had better opportunities, they had more creativity in their play, and they just really frustrated the women, the USA women's team on the attacking side of things. They couldn't finish. They could not find that final pass or the perfect shot or anything like that because Portugal made it difficult for them. And I'm afraid that's exactly what Sweden is going to do to them.
Yes, and it does have to be noted that the U.S. were playing. Was it with 10 men? Because of Lavelle's 2 yellows.
No.
I keep
She'll just
hearing
I
because
think she'll miss the next
Lavelle
game.
can't. Yeah, she can't play in this next
Yeah.
game. So I thought that was because she got 2 yellows.
No, she got one in match 2 and then one in match 3, so she'll miss the first knockout match, which does mean from a Kentucky standpoint, right? Savannah DeMello will get to play, most likely going to play the whole game at this point. Because they don't seem to like a lot of subs.
That's another thing I can get into. Vlatko needs to either use his bench. I don't know what he was doing in this game.
No.
He used the bench more in this game, but there's a part of me that thinks they just coasted because he's like, we can draw Portugal. Like, it's fine.
But that's not how we do things. That's not how it
I
works
don't think
here.
Vlatko subscribes to this mentality of like step on the throat of your opponent like the US have done over the past 2 World Cups. I think he's like coast till you have to.
Right. Coast until you have to turn the gas
It just
on and
gives me that sense. I genuinely think this is more of a coaching and like tactics thing than it is on the players, because you can't tell me with like Sophia Smith, Morgan, Rodman. Yes, Sophia Smith and Rodman are both young, but you can't tell me that with these great attackers that we're like we can score only 4 goals.
Yeah. No.
Granted, we've only been scored on once.
Indeed.
So we'll see what happens, but
as we kind of turn the page here on the women's team here, we start to preview a little bit of that knockout stage game with Sweden. This is a rematch from the round of 16, or no, I'm sorry, a rematch from the Olympics in the round of 16, where Sweden beat USA 3-0. It is a little bit of a different roster for both teams. They have a little bit more of their experience than they had from the Olympic teams, but I'm really concerned about this team's ability to turn it on. I think this game goes to overtime, and I think Sweden will find a way to knock out Team USA. I'm going in extra time. Sweden 1, USA 0 on a heartbreaker on a Friday morning in America. Isn't it on Friday or is it
Friday
Saturday?
morning. No, they play Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah, sorry.
I don't. I just. I can see it. I can fully see it, but there's a part of me that thinks the U.S. are gonna like wake up, like
No time like the
something
present.
is gonna click. I don't. So we'll see. It's gonna go to pens. That's as much
You're
as
going
I'm
to go
gonna
to
say.
pens. Okay.
I can't pick a winner. But it's gonna go to pens.
Yeah.
I think we win in penalties. I think our keepers are better overall.
Yeah.
So I think we win out in the penalty shootout, but it's gonna go to pens, and it's gonna be a very stressful early morning game for U.S. fans.
Absolutely. But with that, before we transition over to our last segment here, I want to talk about our sponsorship. If you really like this podcast and you want to continue to support us, buy us a coffee. We've got our link here that we can throw up on the screen here to buy us a coffee. Every dollar that you all put towards this podcast goes to helping grow our platform and helping us continue to grow it and to do as much as we want. We've got some big plans for the spring. So every dollar that you can donate, we really appreciate it. But with that, we're going to go on over to our draft, week 2 of the USL Pro Rel system draft. Last week, we drafted the top tier, the Premier League, if you will. And if I can make my eyeballs work here, I can zoom in here and go over what we said. So between John and I, in no particular order, we took Richmond Kickers, Lou City, Charleston Battery, Sacramento Republic, Pittsburgh, San Antonio. John, off the top rope, for some reason, took Chattanooga, which, as we mentioned earlier, is now going to the MLS next. Indy 11, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Detroit City, Omaha or Union Omaha, Miami Fusion, which I was against because, Team Messi over here, Birmingham Legion, Orange County, not a bandwagon. You get out of my life. Orange County, Phoenix Rising, Tampa Bay Rowdies, Hartford, Oakland, and then I came off with Milwaukee. So, John, any kind of thoughts before we jump into this week's picks?
No, I think this is solid. Overall, this is solid. Like I said earlier, I'm upset about Chattanooga, but I feel like this next one's gonna look very much like bottom tier
Yeah.
USL, the rest of the League One sides type thing, and because there's still 11 NISA sides remaining,
Yep.
and that's gonna be, in my opinion, it's gonna make up most of USL League One.
Yeah.
In this sense.
And I've got some off the table ones for next week as well to kind of spice things up a little bit. But for this week, because John got the first pick last week, I get the first pick this week. And I have 2 teams that I'm between. One is doing really, really good for the most of the season and would seem to be worthy of this promotion into the champion, right? However, the other team and the team that I'm actually going to go with doesn't even exist yet. I'm going to start this off by going with the USL champion side, New Orleans. They're not a club yet, but I think that is a city and a market that is ready to boom and is ready to welcome the world sport into its city. Coming in hot off the top
Do
rope.
they even like have anything?
They have a Twitter and an Instagram account. That's about all I
When
got.
was the last time they posted on said Twitter or Instagram?
Pretty recently, like within the last couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's not
Okay, because I've
silent.
heard next to nothing with them
I
overall.
am gonna pick them because I think that is a market that is hot and ready for it. Now, I will also say there is a negative side to New Orleans, right? Look at the Pelicans. Like they have very little support. They are an awfully run franchise. So there could
But
be a
then you have
downside.
Saints.
Would you say?
You have the Saints.
Would you have the
You
Saints
have the
then?
Saints. Who has someone who's been to New
Yeah,
Orleans. There's Saints stuff everywhere.
everywhere. And I think you would have to
Now I
build
don't
it
know.
into that model.
I went there like a year before Breeze retired,
Mm,
so they're still like good. So I don't know what it is. Like I don't know how big of a fan, how much the Saints were ingrained like 20 years ago
yeah.
when they were, or like under Arch Manning when they sucked, like genuinely were terrible. So I don't know about that.
Yes.
But I went during post heyday or a little twilight of the heyday, and they're still in there. So I still think they're a good sporting town that could support it. I'm gonna go. Who got done dirty? I'm gonna go with the San Diego Loyal
Oh my
for
god,
my next
so
pick.
dirty. I feel bad for them.
My thing is, you have Landon Donovan, and you're in his ownership group, and you can't like just agree to pull that team up.
Right. Even if you change the name, like could you not just pull that franchise up?
Because now you have a guy who shouldn't talk much, but you have arguably one of the most famous U.S. soccer stars on the opposite team, the rival team per se, of to in the MLS.
Yeah.
And you have this is partially why Detroit hasn't have a team yet. Are you going to get those 8,000 loyal fans, in a sense loyal, but in actual sense of loyal soccer fans,
Yeah.
because you're MLS?
And
I don't know. I don't think so.
and I went to San Diego last year. And I got to tour like one of their training facilities. And it's very humble what they have, right? Like they don't have their own stadium. They're practicing at the Olympic training facilities south of San Diego. So like it's something where they were building towards it because everybody there loved the Loyals. Like they talked about how Landon Donovan would always stay at matches. We would get there early and he would stay late for people to take pictures and sign autographs. Why in the F would you not want that to be part of your franchise? Like a part of your league, I mean.
Because Donovan might, I don't know if there was conversations with them or not. Donovan might not have been willing to give so much of a share or something like that. They wanted him to buy in more. I couldn't tell you, in all honesty.
Yeah, I just don't. Frustrating. Very frustrating. But the SD Loyals, great fan base. And John, I think that was a great pick. But now I'm going to go with the second team that was on my list because I think if they're ready, Northern Colorado Hailstorm, welcome to the champion. They have had a not so long history. Started in 2022, right? Best finish in that one season was seventh, but now they're in first place, like we talked about, hosting Lexington over the weekend. They have made it to the third round of the Open Cup, but their biggest holdback for me so far is their attendance. They've got to start drawing more fans,
Well,
or
They moved into a new stadium,
They
which is not
did.
even their permanent stadium.
No, it's a
Their
weird
permanent,
situation.
yeah. So they played somewhere else last year while
Yep.
this complex is being built.
This Legends complex or something like that, right?
Yeah, and then they're playing in on like what I think is going to be a training pitch
Yep.
when the actual one is completed. I also think it's the fact that Colorado as a whole now has 3 teams.
Yeah.
I don't know like how like how far north they are from Colorado Springs, because I know Colorado Springs is more in the south and Denver's more kind of in the middle. So I don't know how much north they are, but that's a lot in an area. Like at least with like Lexington and Louisville, like Lexington, but between Lex and Knoxville, there's nothing,
Nothing.
and that's a lot of ground to
Yeah.
cover type thing. And Louisville's still an hour, Cincinnati's still an hour from Lexington, so there's still like they still have these kind of coves cut out.
There's breathing room, right?
Yeah.
So looking at just Wikipedia for what it's worth, right? This complex, this Future Legends complex, is located in Windsor, Colorado, and it's going to have a baseball stadium, which I think is going to be dual purpose for baseball and soccer. It's got training facilities for both sports and softball. It's got I think a hotel on it, indoor facilities as well. But it's just out in the middle of nowhere, man. Like
Uh,
the population of this town is 32,000 people.
yeah, which I also found weird. It's like one of the lower population towns in the thing. They're an hour from Denver. You could
You
argue they're
beat me
still in
to
the
it.
you could argue they're still in the Denver metro area.
You can. And I think that would be the draw, right? Is pulling those fans who are in like the northern suburbs up just a little bit further to that area.
Yeah, you could argue that they're in there, but in comparison from Denver, Colorado Springs is an hour and 6 minutes. Never mind.
Yeah.
So there literally is a line with the rapids in the middle, with all 3 of these teams. Um,
Um, so with that, Northern Colorado Hailstorm will be the third team to join this new Premier League. John, who's your second pick?
my second pick, and this is mainly because they are more of a cult club than anything, and that's Forward Madison.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting
they're
pick.
they're playing well this year. Traditionally, they're not a powerhouse in
Mm-hmm.
terms of success, but they have a cult following because of their kits. They have,
Yep.
you could argue, the best kits in lower league soccer. You could argue the best kits in American soccer,
Mm-hmm.
which has led to some unfair expectations by other people for their clubs. It's like, well, look at what Madison's doing. First thing, and this is a bit of a kit rant. Hummel, I can't tell you what Hummel does outside of kits. Genuinely speaking, I do not know Hummel for anything but soccer kits. Um, so with them and doing Forward Madison for this as my pick, the better kits I see are from Hummel.
Yeah,
So
like they've got a little bit more going on, either with like the kind of tie-dyed look or like the camo-ish look, or I've even seen some with some stripes on it. Like they've
they
got some interesting designs.
Hummel does the weird thing overall. They and I think it's from a sense of Hummel has to sell kits. Like
Yep.
they could be big in Europe. I know they're like from Denmark because they manufacture the Denmark national team. Um, so it could just be that they're like Kappa in a sense. They just haven't really caught on in America in terms of what else they sell, but I haven't seen anything else for Hummel besides their kits. So do not compare teams of different kit manufacturers to each other, because that's not how that works
Nope.
at all.
Nope.
So many people I've seen when Lex drop kits are like, well, what about this kit? I'm like, that's Adidas. What about this
Yeah, you
kit?
can't
That's
do that.
Hummel. What about this kit? That's Kappa. And they're like, what's the difference? I'm like, the difference
It's a
is the
brand.
copyright.
Yeah.
There's styles you can't do, or base kits you can't do, because Adidas owns them.
Right. You can't just copy it and throw the Nike logo on it and say, "Oh, we're good, right?" No.
Yeah. And as much as I would prefer that like Lex and the US national teams would be with Adidas, because they do tend to make, in terms of the big manufacturers, better kits in my opinion. The US is never going toward a non-US company
Right.
being the manufacturer of the US kits. Same as like Germany's never going away from Adidas.
Yep.
And then two, from what I've seen with the Nikes, we get a little other stuff that some teams don't get, because we get the whole Nike line
Yeah.
with it. I've not dove into other teams' other apparel, but from what I've found is like Madison has to go to a different company for most of their other stuff.
Well, and I think that's where like the advantage of having a brand like Nike or Adidas or something like that behind you to get you that extra revenue from those extra uh what's the word I'm looking for? Apparel sales, right? Like they're gonna make your hoodies, they're gonna make your polos and all of that kind of stuff that you can sell and make extra money off of.
And you know it's quality.
Yep.
Like this
Absolutely.
is a Nike Lex hoodie. It's quality. It's good.
But Forward Madison, a great pick by you there. They've made a playoff appearance in their short time being around. They have a sort of soccer specific stadium. It is a soccer specific stadium, but it's not just theirs. They share it with the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
And it's ancient. It was not
Yeah.
built for soccer. It was
Yeah.
built for football.
Yeah, it doesn't look the greatest, but I like what they've done, with, and maybe it's just the colors,
Oh,
right?
it's
Like that extra pop of
awesome.
color to make it look like it's fantastic. But
Their stadium's awesome. They have a great outfit. They have like a scoreboard going.
yep.
They, as a whole, I think, out ignore the kits. As a whole, they do stuff that other teams should do.
Yes.
They have they
Absolutely.
do a lot of giveaways. They know how to do minor league sports.
And they do it very well. But John, to kick us off in the third round here, I want to pick a team that I absolutely will full on admit I overlooked last week in my rankings, and I should have picked them at the end of last week. I absolutely should have. I'm going to go with New Mexico United. This team is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the home of the Isotopes for minor league baseball. They have only been around since 2019. They have a beautiful crest with that yellow and black color scheme. They haven't had as much on the field success, which is, probably a reason to not immediately put them in the upper tier. But they've made it to the quarterfinals of the Open Cup, and they draw like crazy. Over 8,000 fans at every game. Like, that is insane.
Yeah, it's truly insane. They're also like another team with a cult following because they make
Yes.
good kits.
Yep.
That's one thing I've noticed a little bit that I do not like about some American soccer culture is that these people that don't have a team affiliated are like, well, this team's really good, where they really only like their kits.
Yep.
It's not like I was like, some teams can have great kits. That doesn't mean they're like you had to just like them and all that type of thing. If you're a
Yeah.
kit collector, just say that.
Right. Like if you just want, those kits and you want to have them on your wall or, to wear or whatever, like, yeah. But if you're looking for like being a fan of a team, this is a really good one to get behind.
Very good. My next one is going to be the one who hosts two other teams possibly in this league, and that's Orange County SC. They've never outright won the regular season, but they have a USL title very recently. They've made the round of 16 in the Open Cup. So they're a really good team that I think just gets ignored because they are in the area of the LA teams in the MLS. But LA is so huge and stuff. They can be very much supported, and they are well supported. That's right.
Who did you pick?
Orange County. Let's see.
Didn't we take them last week?
Wait. Oh, we did. Their logo is weird on here.
Yeah, I was like, hold up, wait, what happened?
That's not the logo. I was looking at something. I thought that was their logo. Never mind on that. Keep them up there. Keep them up there. Did we pick these guys? This is just from my whole thing.
Throwing everything into chaos.
I'm gonna go with the Triumph, the Greenville Triumph.
Okay.
They are a consistent team. They've been in the playoff or final for the USL League One for a while. They're well supported. Yes, they play in a college football stadium, so they seems they don't have that much support.
So does Lexington.
But they play in like a mega college football stadium.
Well, true. I mean, so does Chattanooga. They play in that giant football stadium that never has anybody in it. Yes. That's not a slight at Chattanooga. That's more a slight at UTC. Anyways.
Yeah. But they're very well supported team. In my opinion, they are the class of the USL League One in terms of historically over the 5 seasons. Which to me means if we're adding other lower league teams in this system, means they'll be in the championship in this sense.
Yeah, and good pedigree. I don't particularly like them and their fans because they kind of gave a little gruff to the Bluegrass Soccer Cast when they were playing Lexington. But hey, little friendly rivalry never hurts anyone, right? There can be only one green team. That's all I'll say.
Yes, there can be only one green team.
So my next pick will not be a green team. I'm going to kind of stick in a similar mindset to where you're at, John. Middle of the country, city that doesn't have a whole lot of other stuff going on. That's right. Memphis 901 FC, come on up. Now, I had originally thought this would be a team that could be considered for the Premier League of this new hypothetical USL tiered system. But, the more I thought about it, like, they just don't draw well. They still play in a baseball stadium. They've had some high finishes in the league. They've made the playoffs several times. They've made the round of 32 in the Open Cup. So they've really had their opportunities. But, sometimes the city can struggle to support the team.
They're rough support in a sense, but they're still a good team. They do have some very loyal supporters and that sort of thing. And Memphis is a good sports town.
Yeah.
Overall. But yeah, that's a solid pick. My next pick is going to be it's going to be the El Paso Locomotive.
Oh, you sucker. That was my next one.
They're kind of as well isolated, but it also gives a team closer to New Mexico United. Yep. El Paso is a very underrated city.
Yeah.
I've personally never been there, but I've never heard anything bad about it. So they're a solid team. Where are they in this list? They have had some playoff appearances. They've made the second round of the Open Cup, but they draw well. Yes, they don't play in a soccer-specific stadium. They draw well, and West Texas has a lot of people in that area. They can definitely support it, and you have like the Latin community right there.
Yeah, you've got a great basin of people to pull from, and that's another what's what I'm looking for, John? Another densely populated area that doesn't have a whole lot of other competition, sports wise at least. Yes, you've got University of Texas at El Paso, but and you've got the Sun Bowl every year. I think it's played out there in college football. But other than that, wide open. No other professional sports. I think that's a great pick. Um, wow, you really kind of threw me off here because that was literally going to be my next pick. I'm going to stick in the similar area of the country and a team we talked about today because I think the city can support it. Maybe not so much this specific franchise. I'm going to go FC Tulsa to come into this league. Again, kind of keeping some regionality between them and Memphis and Texas and Albuquerque and so forth. But FC Tulsa, not some of the greatest finishes in the league play. They've made the playoffs several times. They've made it to the fourth round of the Open Cup, and they draw pretty well. 3,500 or so at every match. But if you look at what happened with Tulsa Athletic, and I kind of tipped my hand a little bit earlier in the conversation, what they did and the run they went on, if you can get that momentum and that energy into FC Tulsa, they're gone, man. They're gonna climb.
Oh yeah, they can definitely climb. Um, FC Tulsa also has very good supporter groups. They have very good soccer culture in there. Uh, oh, there.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what happened? There
um,
we go.
they're a solid team. They're well supported. They're able to dig at the OKC Energy because they're on hiatus, so they can say they're the only club in Oklahoma.
Yep.
Um, so they're a good thing. And overall, I think they're another kind of kit like team.
Yeah. And they've got a nice logo. That gold with the white, like very crisp, very clean. I don't know what the little bird is. I don't know the significance of that, but I like the way it looks on the crest.
Very much. My next pick is going to be another team that the MLS did dirty in the Charlotte Independence. Uh,
Yeah.
they did draw pretty well until Charlotte MLS came in, obviously. Um, but they're a solid team. They're consistently good since they've been in League One. They've been okay. They're pretty good this year. Um, where are they? But they're solid. They're another old team. They've made the playoffs a lot. They've made the third round. Their average attendance has been hit because of MLS, but I think Charlotte as a whole is this up and coming city because there's talks about like baseball going there and stuff like that
Hmm.
overall. So I think it's definitely a city that can support two teams.
And you know, I gave Miami some crap about that in the last episode, right? Where I didn't think about a city being able to support two teams. And I think when you get down to this level, so now you're talking about, a step down from directly competing with like the MLS sides. So this would be what, two steps down from the MLS hypothetically. I think you can. And I think, because they play at the University of Charlotte Stadium, right? Is that
Uh,
where they play?
no, they play in like a memorial stadium,
Oh, do they?
like American Legion Memorial, something like that.
Okay. Um, So I think they can support it, especially if you galvanize the population around the stadium. You can really dive into something and have a good successful franchise like they've had so far.
Yeah, they got a nice stadium. They got good supporters. They famously have that trumpet player that everyone can
Yep.
hear when you watch their games. Um, and it's now 2-0 Union Omaha.
Oh, I missed that.
But there's still hope. They gave up two second half goals to Tormenta as well, being up 2-0 last game. So we'll see. And Lexington should have had a goal a few minutes ago, but somehow it didn't go in. So we'll see what happens. Still hopeful.
Yeah, I kind of forgot to watch. Um, sorry. Next. So this conference is getting a very regional into that middle of the country, right? Like we don't have anything too far east or west. But I think I'm going to break that mold right now. I'm going to go with Loudoun United, right outside of DC. Really expand the footprint of this conference, this league, I should say. Have not had great finishes on points. Have not made the playoffs yet. Have not won any league titles. They've made it to the round of 32 in the Open Cup, and they only average about 1,000 or so people. But I think if we go back to the conversation we just had about Charlotte, um, I think very similar about DC and about having Loudoun being an independent franchise from DC United now. They have the opportunity to grow their own fans. And I think that's why they haven't had as much success up to this point, is because of that connection with the MLS side. Now they're separate. Now I think they're ready to move forward.
Their existence I've put into question because they're so close. They are so close to DC. I just don't overall get it.
But you
Uh,
you picked in two different rounds here. You picked a team in the same city as, well, soon will be in the same city as an MLS team, and one that is currently in another city as an MLS team. Don't give me that.
and they're not the thing with Loudoun United and even DC United is neither are very well supported right now as they've struggled.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
and
Wayne
the thing
Rooney
is,
needs to step it up.
the DMC area or DMV, sorry, DMV area is like notoriously a transplant place because a lot of people who live there are from other cities because they work for the government.
Yep.
So it's hard. It's like Florida with any of their teams besides like the Miami Heat. It's hard to get fans.
Yep. Well, and I mean, even the big draws like the Miami Heat, like they struggle at times in the regular season.
Yeah.
But part of that is
Uh
culturally too. So, but I could talk about
yeah.
that another time. Who you got next?
My next up I'm going to go I'm gonna be a homer. I'm gonna pick Lex.
Dang it.
Um Solely because like I said, I don't feel that any League One side as a whole should be like there's some we might have to put down there, but I feel overall this is going to be this championship is going to be the actual championship in League 1 heavy
Yeah.
mix of the more lower tier currently ones.
Yeah, and I think this is the right place for Lexington, right? It's their first season, so yeah, the stats don't look great, right? But the attendance wise has looked pretty good.
Yes, we're technically 5th in average now. We've only dropped down that, but it's like 3rd through 5th are all like divided by like 100 in the league in terms of average attendance. So they're still doing well, doing much better than some teams are in the league. And so overall, we're good. They're good. Lexington is definitely an area. It still keeps this whole Cincy Lou Lexington vibe, but now with this is pro rel, so we could see
Yep.
the rivalry emerge. Hopefully,
And you would see them, potentially playing. I mean, if Louisville drops or Lexington rises up, hey, they're playing multiple times in the same year. You threw a wrench in my plans here, John. So I'm going to continue to expand this out further east. Sorry, it took me a second. And I'm going to go with another new team that hasn't started yet, but from all reports is extremely well supported financially. They're building plans. They're planning on building a stadium. Give me Rhode Island FC from the USLC expansion side to add into this group. Look, Rhode Island, smallest state in the country, right? But what they can pull from New York and what they can pull from the surrounding states and stuff like that, I think they've got it. Have you seen some of the stadium plans that they've put out there, like some of the renderings?
No, because as a
Oh my
whole,
gosh.
well, here's my thing with renderings. I do not care until the stadium's been announced that's getting built and that it's like, this is the rendering type thing. Because this is Homerish with Lexington. So many people keep going, well, that downtown rendering was so cool.
Yes, it
Yes, it
was.
was. The city said no. Get
Yep.
over it.
Yeah, the city
In
said
general, with
no, we're building a
renderings,
park instead.
there's been so many renderings of so many stadiums across so many leagues. Tell me which one you're building, and let's see what happens.
Yep.
Let's see what actually comes to fruition. Because yes, they play in Providence. Providence is one of the richest cities in America because it's where all the New York rich people go to actually live because they don't want to live in New York. It's just
Just what
it's
you trailed off there. What happened?
sorry. Just stadiums as a whole. That's my thing. Just like I'll believe it when I see it. I'll when I see the final product, or at least the building of the final product, is when I will trust in it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like, you never know exactly what's going to happen when you're starting some of these franchises, but just from seeing how excited the USL is about this team, seeing how potentially well funded they're going to be, like I really think this is the right spot for them.
Yes.
Who's your next pick?
With that, I'm picking similar expansion side, and I'm going with. Well, you spoiled my pick. I'm going with USL. See Iowa.
Oh
Uh,
no! Dang it!
you
You
literally read
stole
my
the
mind.
Iowans from me.
As a whole, because Iowa is very isolated. They don't have any top pro team, and it kind of gives Madison a closer opponent, and they can actually have a legit rivalry, except instead of having Lexington or Omaha as their closest rivals.
I'm legitimately disappointed. That was like my next pick. I even so a little behind the curtains here. We do have like a little private group chat during the show that we communicate different things to our producer and so forth. And I had just hit send on just so you know my next pick is going to be the expansion side in Iowa. But hey, look, if you look at the USL two, right? The Des Moines Menace, that's where they play right now. They're a pretty good side in League Two. They came down to Murfreesboro this past year and beat a Tennessee Tempo team that seemed to be a lock to make the full U.S. Open Cup roster. And I think with that as a target pool of players, I think they're right on their way to having a very successful champion side. Plus, like you mentioned, not a whole lot of competition in the city. Yeah, they've got Drake. Yeah, they've got um, minor league baseball and so forth. But like, it's not going to be the same. If that stadium rendering comes true that they have with like these beautiful like wood architecture outside, like it will definitely be my favorite stadium in all of this, the USL. Um, so I'm really looking forward to it. I will happily go back to Iowa and watch a match or two. So, man, my picks are all over the place now.
Gotta have backups to your backups.
Well, so here's the thing, right? Like I've got other teams that I thought deserved to be in the league, the champion league, right? But now that I'm looking at it, I'm kind of second guessing myself. But I'm gonna lock in
That
this one.
I'm kind of at that point because some of these I'm like, I can't pick one over the other in
Yeah.
my head. It's like hard for me to decide.
So I'm gonna lock this one in then. A young side, but still somebody that can have a great place to recruit from and continue to expand this league. Give me Monterey Bay FC. Started in 2022. Didn't have a great finish last year, 21st. But they did make it to the round of 32 in the Open Cup, and they do draw over 3,600 folks at every match.
Yeah, they get good draw. My next is another kind of shocker.
Uh-oh.
They're not, in my opinion, they're not a shocker. This team, um, that's not Monterey. This team,
That's South Georgia.
this team is historical. In most sense, technically speaking, Pele played for them. Uh,
No, you're not doing
technically,
this.
the New York Cosmos from the NISA.
No
And
way.
the only reason is because this is like a TV sense. Like people are, oh, the New York Cosmos. I've heard of them. That's the
Everybody's heard of the Cosmos.
only reason. I'm only putting them in here
Wow.
because I feel this can be like the TV draw.
Wow. You really dug deep out of the
They're
depths
on
of
hiatus
on
from NISA. They are on hiatus from NISA, but I'm like, historically, this is a team that, technically speaking, Pele played for this team. This is not the same franchise. They're separate
no.
franchises. This is technically New York Cosmos 2010. This is their
Yep.
technical official name. But as a whole, they have the logo rights to the original logo. So as a whole, it's cool, and I feel they need to be in here. They need to get a better ownership group in there. But I
Yes.
think it's a sleeping giant.
I agree with you, but so just so you know, on my list I had all of our leagues and then I had a no shot list. And that's where I had the Cosmos because I didn't think this
Why?
was because they're on hiatus from a lower league already, right? Yes, they've got the brand name, but what does that mean in New York right now when the Red Bulls are semi popular, and with NYCFC, like, and with
Well,
Queensboro, which Queensboro's
Queensboro
coming in
fell
somewhere, right?
through. Queensboro fell through.
Oh, did they?
USL 1 is going to Brooklyn in 2025.
Wow.
I just think New York as a whole can support multiple lower league sides.
Oh, fact, yes.
The only reason they don't have like minor league sports as a sense is because of like territory rights
Mhm.
that these clubs have. So there used to be a minor league team affiliated with the Yankees on Staten Island, but then they like
Yep.
redrew when they redid the MLB minor league system. It's like, no, you are too close to the Yankees. There's a difference. Like there's
Yes.
a difference between being top in America and being, oh, this is like a local lower side. So like tickets are cheaper. It's still going to a professional game, in this sense, a professional soccer game, but cheaper, and it allows for closer fan interactions, better fan interactions, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree. Okay.
two more each.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them, not a fan of their mascot. I dunk on them in any opportunity I have. Give me South Georgia Tormenta. Welcome to the Champion League. They've had the performance on the field, and they have a very nice soccer specific stadium for League One. I think this is a great run franchise. Again, not a fan of them, but I can respect the work that they do.
So I don't like Tormenta, but it's not because their franchise is well run as a whole. They have
Yep.
the franchise is well run. They have a nice stadium. Their fans, they have two sets of fans. They have older fans or like non-Georgia Southern affiliated fans with the college, and then they have
Mhm.
their college kids who are the most chirpy, like they try to be
Oh,
trolls. So
Statesboro, Georgia.
like if you're on USL, at least USL League One Twitter, like I am, the banter is kind of friendly, but it's not that bad. It's like all kind of like small little jabs. No, they're like they try to be like this trolley account on X or Twitter or whatever it's called now, and it's just annoying. Like
Yep.
I dealt with them a little bit with the Railbirds when we tied them, and they're trying to like dunk on us for our league position. I was like, but you haven't beat us, so you
Right,
being higher in the table is not an insult. You should
right.
beat us. And then they tried to say is like, yeah, at least we have a star on our crest. I was like, we
So
haven't
what?
played a playoff season. There hasn't been a
Right.
playoffs that Lexington has missed. They just like they tried to beat us. And Bolt, the Ibis, who is their mascot, he knows when and where to chime in. He's a little smarter, but also the man has had to drum for their supporters. It's
Yeah.
really rough when your mascot has to do the drumming. Find some kids. Like we've had the
Yeah.
Railbirds have had to find. I've had like 3-year-old drumming next to me, and I'll take it. I was
Yeah.
just like follow me, and the kid somewhat it was a little shaky. It wasn't perfect, but we didn't have to bring in Thunder to drum.
I guarantee you he has better rhythm than I do. Even Thunder, I bet Thunder has better rhythm than I do. Um so let's see. Who's
Oh,
up next?
seeing it.
It's you.
Uh oh yeah. Yeah, give me one Knox. Uh, Also a good run franchise. The Scruffs they're banter-ishy, but they're also still some good people overall. They technically play in a soccer-specific stadium. Um, the reason I say technically is they play at the University of Tennessee's
Yep.
soccer stadium, so it's not their own. I don't know what the agreement is with the university in that sense. Is it in any sense of a permanent, or is it because I've seen some talks because Knoxville has a minor league baseball team Knox might join them at their new stadium they're getting.
Yeah, they're getting
Um,
like a whole little complex and everything. Like it was gonna be nice.
yeah, I've seen some little talks about that. So I don't know what the agreement with Tennessee is in the sense of like, yeah, you can keep playing here forever if you choose or not. Whereas like Lexington's thing is like, Georgetown is a temporary. It's temporary. Like that's what the club like preaches. It's temporary. We're not planning to stay here forever. So, but it's a nice stadium. Regal is a very nice stadium. They play in a nice area. Knoxville, they're one of the few teams that actually like play in the city, and that's because the city is built around the university.
Right.
So
So they get that kind of home field feeling. They get that college feeling.
the only thing that sucks is they have a one person entrance
Mm,
or like a one car entrance off of a like side road into their parking lot.
jeez.
And like the check in is like right like 200 feet inside the turn. Oh, it was so I traveled to the first Lexington game in Knoxville, and one, it was freezing, so it sucked overall. Um, but I had left and I was like, oh, we'll get there 40 minutes early, whatever. I sat in traffic to check in for like 20 minutes
Jeez.
just to get parked. I got parked in front of a loading dock. So their parking lot can't even handle it. I got put in front of this loading dock for like this storage place. Like literally like where my like hood was the where a semi truck would back up, and then there was that gate.
Jeez. Like you had like no room then.
Oh, there was room to move, but like they I got like just like placed there. I was like, okay, this is weird.
All right, my last pick for tonight. I'm gonna go West Coast because I think we need a little bit more out there. We need at least. Do we have any West Coast teams out there? No.
We got San Diego.
Oh, that's right, the SD Loyals. Yeah. So we'll give them another opponent. Give me Santa Barbara Sky FC, the future USL one side. But at least with this one, they seem to have plans to get all the way to having a franchise.
Yes, and from everything we've seen, they are launching next year.
Yep.
Um, and are launching with, in my opinion, one of the better logos.
They do. They
Their
have a
crest.
really
This
great
this
logo.
is a dope. This is a very dope crest. I like their color scheme because it's like this darker orange blue. It's kind of like One Knox, but not really.
It's more like a darker Syracuse more than anything.
Yeah. I overall I like the color scheme.
Yeah.
In a whole, and they're expansion side, but they have everything set up at least right now. So we'll see how they do next year. With my last pick, I'm also going league expansion. I'm doing the monster cans. That's Spokane Velocity, and that's for two main reasons. Just more West Coast in a sense. I feel if the USL does do this, which they are voting next week on this,
Yeah.
if they're going to explore expansion more. So I feel they would do more kind of a geographical thing if they were going to rearrange the leagues as a whole. So we just need kind of more of that like West Coast. So it's not like actual League One right now. Right now, these two, Velocity and Sky, are coming next year, where it's just Fuego,
Yeah.
and then like Northern Colorado, and then
In
Omaha,
Omaha.
and then like there is 9 teams east of the Mississippi,
Yep.
and the 3 that are west, and they are west, and they're not even close to each other.
No. Travel
The
for them
Fire
is
and Ice
awful.
Derby sucks. Also, that's just a stupid name in my opinion.
Oh, but
Fuego
it's fun though.
Hailstorm. It's funny, but I don't like hail. Doesn't always come when it's like cold.
True. True.
I've had hail when it's been like 60 degrees out.
Yep.
So I don't associate hail with like ice. If they were like the blizzard, the Northern Colorado blizzard, I'd give it. But they're the hailstorm.
Well, so that means that this is quite funny in my opinion. 2 teams that are in the USL champion, the highest current level, are not even in the second tier of this proposed realignment for promotion relegation. Colorado Springs and Rio Grande Valley. Welcome to League One, folks, for next week. And Fuego, yeah, sure. You could be in League One. You might not even make my
Fuego
list.
Fuego is in League One overall. The Red Wolves did. USL did the city of Chattanooga dirty.
Yep.
With the whole Red Wolves thing.
Yeah, they're not making
you
my
should
list.
have brought in. You should have brought in Chattanooga FC. I don't understand why you didn't, because they're again a very good independent club, or were at least. The Torinos, I honestly forget they exist. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
you're not the only one.
There's so many teams that aren't well covered.
Yep.
At all. Like I feel like I see more of this UPSL side that's in Texas.
I
Because
mean,
one,
look at like
they chime up.
on the screen here. Like they're down there with the Iowa Raptors of NISA, like, and of the
Yeah,
Midwest Premier League.
Yeah, there's some. It's either MPSL or UPSL side in like South Texas that is drawing more fans than like championship sides. They're like in the 5,000 range.
Wow.
I know more about that team than I know Rio. I can't, like, every time I see this picture is like, oh yeah, that's the Torino's logo.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't exist in my head. And I can't tell you what their uniforms look
Nope.
like. I can't this team just, it doesn't exist in my head. The Switchbacks honestly forgot about it again. I kept seeing them, but I kept going to other teams.
Well, and I think if we didn't have Northern Colorado in there already, like
I was more, yeah. Every time I saw, it, I was like, "Oh, I could do put Northern Colorado's
yeah.
in it. That's 2 hours apart." I'm not against that, but
I
in
mean,
my
good
head, they're
natural
not.
rival potentially, but
Yeah, just in my head, they're not. The switchbacks aren't prevalent. I remember a joke because they played on ESPN2
they
recently,
did.
and it's like pumping them up, but they played like after they got lost like 6-0 the previous game. I was like, this is just funny.
This is just bad.
Yeah.
Well, so make sure you tune in next week to see, excuse me, where those teams shake out and where League One finishes out for the 3-tiered process. We will then also kind of talk about some potential other teams that could join, but then I also want to talk about some others that, haha, thanks for playing, that you just may not have as much of an opportunity. But that will close up this week's episode of Bluegrass Soccer Cast. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikToks at BG Soccercast, and make sure to give us a listen on all of your favorite uh, podcasting platforms. Sorry, my brain is really messing up right now. Follow us on all of those podcasting platforms like Spotify, Google, YouTube, Apple, iHeartRadio, and so many others. When you're on those videos, make sure or podcasts, make sure to hit subscribe, follow, like, and share just to help the platform grow as much as possible. That's John. I'm Jimmy, and we will see you on the next one.